Hello, everyone. Very unreal to be on stage today. And hope you all have a good break, feeling refreshed for the last batch of talks. So I would like to start this talk with a little story, something personal that happened to me very recently. So last January, New Year's celebration. And I went out with some friends, having some lovely dinner, some lovely food, and at some point in the evening, the inevitable happened. Someone asked the question, what is your New Year's resolution? Well, I haven't really think about it that much beforehand, really. And the first thing that really came to my mind was 2 years of pandemic happened, on one hand. On the other hand, a lot of baking and pastries happened. So, no, typical question, typical answer. I decided to get fit. And the following day, I said, you know what, why not? Let's actually follow that resolution. I went to the gym and I took a membership. And so beforehand, I haven't really been too much to gym before. And really, I didn't really know what really works for me, what I would enjoy or what I would not enjoy. So I decided I'm going to try out every single classes of the gym, and one of them might work for me. One of the classes that I tried was a bar class. And for the people in the room who, like me, did not know what a bar class is, it's pretty much a mixture of Pilates and ballet. So I remember that morning very clearly, 7 a.m., last person to enter the room, and first thing I realized was there was only women in the room. I started to feel extremely uncomfortable and really asking myself a lot of questions, like, was I allowed to be in that room? Or were they allowing me to be in that room because nobody really wants to say anything, nobody wants to make any assumption? And the class continued on, and I started asking myself more and more questions. Questions like, are people staring at me right now? Are they staring at me because I'm a man? Are they staring at me because I'm a minority? Are they staring at me because I'm really struggling and I'm really bad at this thing? Or maybe, they're not even staring at me. It's all in my head, really. And the problem really was, I came to this class really to train, to work out, to really getting fit. And instead, I really was in my head. I was feeling different. I was singled out. I was feeling judged. And I was extremely self-conscious. So now I would like to invite all of you, just take a moment. Try to think about the moments that happen in your life where, you feel in a similar way. This feeling of being different from the rest of the room. That could be that bar class, that could be any other environment, location, events where you feel exactly in the same way. If you're there, if you can imagine yourself there, welcome to my words. This is really the best description of how I feel being a minority in the tech industry. This is this feeling of being isolated, being insecure, not fitting in the room, being just different. Now, the big question really is, how can you expect me to perform at my best if I can't focus? And I can't focus because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being judged. I'm afraid of voicing my concern. I'm afraid of not being good enough. I'm afraid of how you see me, and I'm afraid of how you might not understand my voice. And really, I will be present physically. I will do my work exactly how you expect me to do it. But I could do so much better if I was feeling comfortable. And I'm really here today to talk about this, and I would like to challenge that statement. I really believe that as the leader of the tech industry, it is something that we can influence, it is something that we can change, and it is possible to create a team where no one experiences that feeling. So a bit of background, I'm Liem Pham. I was born and raised in France. I work in a lot of different startups, mainly around London. And currently, I'm working as a staff frontend engineer at Accurx. We're working along NHS to try to improve communication in healthcare. I joined during the pandemic in 2020 as the first front-end engineer. And really, my goal when I joined the company was all about establishing the front-end discipline there. One of the things that I realized when I joined the company was that there was a company diversity target. The company was really focusing on trying to hire X% of people identifying as women, non-binary, LGBT, different age group, different ethnic background, etc. They wanted to have like a good representation of the UK population within our teams. When thinking about this diversity target, it's extremely easy to really forget about inclusion. We're only thinking about diversity, but not enough about inclusion. Too often I've seen teams celebrating, yes, we have reached our targets and we're done. No, we're not done. Like, diversity for me is not the end goal. Diversity is really just the start of a journey. And focusing only on diversity for us would have mean me giving empty promises to the people I'm going to hire. That means bringing diversity into a team where they will not feel comfortable in. And exactly like this bar class, I did not want my team to experience that feeling. So instead, I really try to focus on what impact can I have on those targets. And what is the team that I wanted to create, and what did I want to do? And I come up with this definition, which is building an inclusive team where everyone is treated fairly, respectfully, and given access to opportunities despite differences. This was the team that I wanted to create, and this was my target. So to work on this, like I went through like 3 different steps, and I would like to walk you through with some of the example of things that I've done in the teams to achieve that. So first, we're going to talk about the inclusive mindset, how to bring the inclusive mindset to your team. The second part is like, once we have like this mindset in the team, it was all about going beyond the team, creating this trusting community where everyone's going to work together, bond together, and work efficiently together. And then, what are the next steps? How can we go further and really giving access to opportunity for everyone to grow toward our common goal? So the first part, which is developing the inclusive mindset. We're going to talk about mainly here hiring as an example, both like hiring the mindset within our teams, but also the mindset of the people we're going to bring into our teams. So during the interview process, one of the first things that we did is like trying to avoid unconscious bias. So the first part of the interview is a coding challenge. So we send engineers, candidate a coding challenge, they do it and send it back to us so that we can rate about this. The first very easy task is to redact all of the names. Names brings a lot of bias, and that could be potentially the origin of the name, or the gender of the name, or maybe the name of like your best friend or someone that you hate. So those really, gonna bring obviously some bias. The second part is the technical interview, where we used to really have a look at the history of the candidates. Where have they worked in? How many years have they worked in? And we just realized that this actually brings a lot of bias. So we decided to completely ignore what's the history of the candidates. So seeing, for example, on a CV, like a famous company or a famous school that they've been, or maybe potentially the same school as they've been as me, and will bring some bias. And the number of years of experience is the same. If 2 candidates perform at the exact same level and they have 2 years of difference, does it really matter? Like, they are performing the same way. So this was all about how we're going to change like the mindset of our teams, like really to bring this inclusive mindset. But what about the candidates? This first part was really about focusing about the technical, how good their skills are, how they're going to perform basically every day. But this is only half of our work on every day. We're not only doing technical things. There's a lot more to that. And we wanted for our candidates to really experience what it is to work together. And for that, instead of focusing only on the technical skills, we created another part of the interview, which is the candidates will come, bring some codes that they are very familiar with, and will explain it to our junior engineers. This code, we will have never seen it before. Why is that important? This is going to really give us like a different aspect of the engineers. This aspect of like, are they going to be good mentors in our teams? Are they going to have good interaction with our teams? Are they open to learn and teach each other things, no matter what's their level? Are they going to be able to explain things very simply for our junior engineers, or maybe for a product manager, someone non-technical, or anyone else? So really what we were trying to achieve there is trying to figure out if their mindsets is going to be compatible with ours. Are they going to bring us closer to our goal or further to our goals? So we talked about now hiring. How do we bring like people with the inclusive mindset to our teams? What about like when they land in our teams? We were trying like to go really beyond being just the teams. We wanted to create like this trusting community, a community where people really understand each other, trust each other, and really work out very well together and efficiently. Generally, like trust is something really hard to earn, and you wouldn't really trust a complete stranger. So how do you build trust? And for us, being a front-end engineer at Accurx means that we're spread up across different product teams, meaning that we don't really interact every day together. We don't spend time together. We are just part of the same company. And to improve that, really, we're trying like to create like different like types of forums so that all of the front-end engineers across the company can spend time together. So the first type of interaction that we're creating for everyone to spend time together is a front-end learning day. So this is a day where all of the front-end engineers in the company will gather together in terms of like focusing on learning something that they're passionate about, learning something that they want to learn about and that they don't have to learn about. This is about trying a new technology, learning a new skills, maybe focusing on developing their craft or mentoring each other's. It's all about like, gathering on something that's important to yourself. While this interaction is great, you're gonna like very likely form groups of like people with exactly the same skills because we're all passionate about that specific thing that we all love. But what about like a crossover of like the different skills? The second type, this brings me to the second type of interaction, which is random pairing. So we are like randomly pairing engineers on a very short bug fixing topic. And what's interesting with this interaction is all about like matching engineers that have like completely different skill, completely different interests, and really completely different ways of working. And we're gonna like be able like with this type of interaction to really understand each other for the people who are like not used to work together, who are too different from each other's to be able to work together. And the last type of interaction that we're doing is inclusive social. Being in England means a lot of the socials happen at the pub. And pubs might be not the ideal place for everyone. Like some people in my teams are not drinking alcohol. Some people in my teams don't hear very well. So this means like a very noisy environment is not ideal for them. Some people in my teams are parents. So this means going out in the evening, you can't really take care of your child. So you can't really go out in the evening. So instead of focusing on only like evening events at the pubs, like we're doing like also like more inclusive social, which means, for example, having breakfast together during work time, maybe going for lunch together, or maybe just going out for a coffee or an ice cream and just for a walk. So those ones are like way more inclusive social that would be really open for everyone, really easier to access. All of this type of interaction really is all about trying to understand each other and understand each other deeply. By that, if you meet me like earlier, or like, you just start talking to me, you just start working with me, the first thing that like you might think is like, how might you see me? You would see me as a staff front-end engineer. I'm male, Asian, non-native English speaker. This is really the most obvious. This is all based on assumption. This is really the top part of the iceberg. This is things that like very easy to learn, things that like you don't really need to gain much trust to understand that. And what about this whole hidden part of the iceberg? This hidden part of the iceberg is way more powerful than the top part of the iceberg. It is like, some part of it, you will never access it. But then gaining my trust means that you can understand part of it. And it's really all about like trying to understand part of this iceberg, which is really what is defining me. This is like way more important than like this first part, the top bit, where like it is obvious, but it doesn't really mean anything for me, that part. So if you start to interact with me a lot and gain my trust, you would learn much more about me. You will learn that I'm at the intersection of many identities. You will learn that I'm a dyslexic. You will learn that I'm introvert. You will learn that I love pastry and it really makes me happy. And you can buy my happiness with pastry. So why all of this is important? Like this hidden part of the iceberg, really. If I take the example of dyslexia, knowing that trait of my characters means that you will learn a better way to communicate with me. So if you're sending me a very long document to read and to comment on, or even on Slack, if you have like 5 people sending message, I will struggle basically to follow all of this. But you would mean that a better way to communicate with me would be creating a meeting for me, having a catch up, or one-on-one, or walk with me. And that would be way more efficient basically to communicate with me. On the other side, that also means that you will learn that I have very high creativity and visual skills. So it is all about trying to understand what is the best way, the most efficient way to work together. When I'm building up teams, I try to think of a team as a puzzle and really trying to understand each individual piece of the puzzle, trying to understand their strength, the uniqueness, and how they're gonna match with the rest of the puzzle. How are we gonna understand each other so that they can work together very well? So we've talked now about how to bring the mindset to the team. Once they've landed the team, it's all about creating interaction and creating trust so that we can work very well together and very efficiently together. What about next? How can we go further together? Unfortunately, not everyone have the same chances in life. And for me, my success has been really defined by the opportunity that I had. Those opportunities, I've worked hard, I've taken some, but I've been given a lot. I had the chance to have very good mentors that really helped me and given this opportunity. So for me, this is my payback time. And as a lead, I really believe that my role is to give these opportunities to my teams and trying to identify those opportunities for them. So in order for us to grow, not only them, because their growth really means that I'm a better manager, I'm a better staff, I'm a better person. So one thing that's very important for me about the access of opportunity is really giving access to opportunities for everyone. So one of the engineers that I was working with, one day, I just meet them in a corridor and I saw that something was off with them. And I know them very well, so that means I organized a quick catch up with them over coffee and asking them what's wrong. Something clearly is off. Having this trust established, they were very honest with me, and they told me they received some quite hard feedback that they're struggling with. This is the feedback that they've received. They received the feedback that they are not reaching the expectation for the level. They are not leading any big team decision. They are not driving any discussion in meetings. They were very open with me about how they were feeling about this because we have established this trust together. They told me that they were feeling behind, that they were feeling that they don't deserve to be at the level that they are at, that compared to others at their level, that they are feeling very behind. This feedback really made me sad because that particular engineer was a very good engineer. The issue really was that they were an introvert. And that doesn't mean that they can't be a leader, really. And this is why it's very important to really know your engineers inside out. And they were really focusing on comparing themselves to other engineers at the same level, comparing themselves to an industry expectation that is not built on inclusivity. And what I did instead of really focusing on this feedback, I really worked with them to find opportunities for them. Finding opportunities for them to demonstrate their worth for the business, but also for themselves. It is all about working together in terms of defining our own way of reaching the level we want to reach. For that particular engineers, the solution was for them to define themselves as a strong individual contributor and also an expert in a core technology that is essential for the business. It is also for them to understand that quiet leadership is another way of leading. I'm a quiet leader, and that works out pretty well for me. And that type of leadership might be more adapted for them. Another example of things that are very important for me is trying to break hierarchy in decision making. By that, like if I lead a project on a re-architecture of a website, for example, I really need to understand the whole pictures. By the whole pictures, the first thing that I would do is like I would create a meetings and where all of the engineers are present and we can discuss about that architecture. I will have the point of view of the most experienced engineer in the room. So they're going to validate me that we're doing the right or the wrong architecture. This is great. But what about the other half of the room? The room where the people where they are too afraid of speaking in front of like 10 other engineers or are too new to be able to speak in front of other engineers. So it is all about like creating different mediums so that like we can all be able to input. So creating alongside with that meetings, creating a document so people can do their research on their own times and have the times to think about that architecture. Creating an anonymous survey where the most shy engineers can say, I don't understand anything of this architecture. And this really like gonna give me the other half of the picture. That half where it's gonna tell me if the learning curve of this architecture is good or it's gonna be too complex for someone new to the team. The second part also is all about empowering everyone to lead. Being a staff engineer means I have access to a lot of opportunities. I have access to all of the projects, and a lot of people are going to come to me telling me that they have problems, which also means that we have way too much on our plates. So why not delegating? Why not giving those opportunities to other engineers that like are looking for growth? And my role really is like all about identifying those opportunities and trying to distribute them into my team so that we can all grow together. Because that architecture decision, for example, I've done 10 other architecture decisions. What will it bring me to my career? Not much. I've done it already 10 times, but that new engineers have never done it. So it's all about like helping them also to be able to lead. Not only like the most experienced engineers, but what about the most junior engineers? They will have to lead one day. So why not starting with them and giving them like smaller projects, smaller features so that they can also lead themselves, trying out before like they reach their level, trying out so that the day when they switch, they are already aware of what they're going to need to do. So really now to summarize, there was like 3 points that I went through to create this team. The first one was all about bringing the inclusive mindset to the team, to all teams, but also via the people we're bringing in. The other part is the trusting community. How are we going to understand each other very well so that we can move further? And the last one is access to opportunity. How can we distribute like opportunities for everyone to be able to grow? These 3 steps are not the perfect recipe. This was a recipe that worked for us. That's bring us to today. This is Accurx front-end team. Some of the social event that we did, and yes, this is an Internet Explorer cake celebrating the end of Internet Explorer. So this team today is like around 20 front-end engineers, and when building up this slide, like one thing that I really struggle is like how to define success. And one of the easiest reach that I could do is define it with a number. I always hated number. I've been treated so many times just as a number. And I didn't want to have like, for anyone to have any excuse of saying like, I've reached this number, I'm done with diversity. As I said, this is just the start of the journey. The numbers doesn't give me the whole story. And this is only one measure of success. And alone, it doesn't really make me understanding my team. And I really measure my success really trying via like the feedback that I received and observing my teams. This is really seeing that we're all different in some ways, and this is okay. We don't have to change to be able to fit in the team. That seeing every single people helping each other's growing, helping each other's teaching each other's. It's really witnessing a junior engineer challenging a staff engineer during a meeting. And having everyone to trust each other enough to be able to be vulnerable, including leadership. And it is really seeing everyone celebrating each other's and knowing what is important for each other's. This is how we understood that we were successful. So now I would like to ask you, how do you define diversity and inclusion success in your teams? This is something that I would really love to hear, because there's not only one way of defining it. So please feel free to catch up later on with me on social media as or after. And lastly, most importantly, did I ever go back to bar? Yes, I did. Thank you very much.